Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are making Chipotle meatballs, which is a recipe I think you should know by heart. Now why? Number one, because it's really easy. You can make it on a weeknight. Second thing is all of the ingredients are readily available in grocery stores. But number three, it's just because it's so delicious and everybody likes it. Okay, so let's talk meatballs first. I have the ground meat here. You can make this with pork or with beef or a mixture of the two. I've got a pound here. Today I'm working with pork, ground pork. And then I'm going to add the ingredients that flavor it. It's a very simple mixture here. It's a little bit like, for those of you that like making meatloaf, it's a little bit like making a meatloaf mixture. So I've got a couple of cloves of garlic here, and I'm just going to cut those up. I always do that chopping first by slicing through them all and then going back and forth, rocking and chopping through it. We want to get this fairly fine because we want it evenly distributed through the meat mixture here. So I've got it quite fine chop on it. That'll go in there. And then we need 1 egg. This will help bind the meatballs. So those go in there. Then for flavorings, I have some mint. Now that may surprise you, but it's very common in Mexico that mint is the flavoring in meatballs like this. And you could add as much or as little as you want. And if you don't have mint, you could either leave it out or you could put some parsley in. That would work good. Or if you happen to have cilantro around, I would like that as well. So I'm slicing crosswise on this mint here, doing what the chefs would call a chiffonade. But then I'm rocking and chopping back and forth across it to make the mint into smaller, tiny pieces, again, for a real even distribution of flavor through this. Now, the next thing that we're going to put in here is the tenderizer, shall we call it. And I'm using rice. In the Mexican kitchen, there's always leftover rice, so they would take some of the rice out. I like to kind of chop it up a little bit, so I'm going to just dump it out here on the countertop. The reason, you don't have to do this, but I like the distribution of it if I just put my knife through it a few times and cut the grains up so that they're not so easily visible and detectable when you bite into the meatballs. But if you don't have rice, then you could use fresh breadcrumbs. I don't really like meatballs that are made with dried breadcrumbs. Instead, I like the fresh breadcrumbs. So that would be just taking a few slices of bread. You'll need about 3/4 cup of fresh breadcrumbs. I like to put them into the blender or a food processor and just let it run to make those fresh breadcrumbs now. Okay, so now we've got this kind of roughly chopped up. I'm not working on it too much here. And so I'll put that in here. If you don't put anything like the breadcrumbs or the rice in here, the meatballs come out quite dense and tough. So that's why you always put in your meatloaf or in your meatballs in some kind of filler like that to tenderize everything. Last ingredient that I'm going to put in here is salt. And you need a teaspoon of table salt. That's fine ground table salt. I'm using the diamond crystal salt, which is twice the volume of regular table salt. So I'm putting 2 teaspoons in there. And then I'm just going to work everything together until it's very evenly mixed. Okay, everything is nicely mixed here. I'm going to press it out and then sort of roughly divide it up into 12 portions here. See how I can eye the 12 portions and see if I can get these meatballs to be roughly the same size, and then take each portion and roll it. Now you want to use a light touch for all of this because if you keep pressing really hard on the mixture, the meatballs will come out kind of dense. So keep a light touch here. Okay, we are finished now with the rolling of the meatballs. I'm going to go wash my hands, and the next step will be to fry these to brown them on the outside. Okay, I have a pan. This is a very large skillet over medium heat. I will tell you that this works really best if you have a 12-inch cast iron skillet. And now I'm going to put the meatballs that we have formed in here and start the browning process. So as they go in here, I will see them brown on one side and keep turning them over the next 10 minutes or so as they brown nicely. Now, when I first moved to Mexico City, I ate in a lot of these places that were called fondas, very simple, homey restaurants, and almost always they would have on offer some Chipotle meatballs. It is literally one of the most common things that you would find in a place like that. And why did they offer them? For the exact reason that I told you you should know this recipe by heart, because everybody loves them. Okay, so we have got those guys in there. I'm going to keep coming back to them and turning them. But now we're going to make the sauce that goes with them while those are browning. I typically do this with canned tomatoes because oftentimes, especially in off-season, you can't get very good tomatoes in the grocery store. And so the sauce comes out lackluster. So if you use the canned tomatoes, and here I'm using diced fire roasted tomatoes, which I think have more flavor. And so I'm going to put the whole can of them in there. The Chipotle is the easy kind of Chipotle, the one that you can find in practically every grocery store these days. So the Chipotle is a smoke-dried jalapeno that has been packed in a vinegary tomato sauce. That's what the canned Chipotles are. And depending on how much heat you want in this, I've got a couple of pieces that I'm putting in there. You could put more if you like it to be really spicy. We want to put at least a tablespoon of this canning liquid, which again, as I said, is made from tomatoes with some vinegar and spices and garlic and onions in there. And now I'm going to put a couple of garlic cloves in here. I like to just simply mash them that way so that the papery husk comes right off of them. And then throw those guys in there. And then we need Mexican oregano as the flavor, or you could use parsley. I suppose you could use a little bit of the mint if you have it there, but typically it doesn't go into a Chipotle sauce like this. If you get the Mexican oregano especially from the Mexican grocery store, it will come in the whole leaf style. So you have to take these little sticks out of it because they will be in there. What is left there after you've pulled the sticks out, you just want to crush or rub between your palms like that. And just let it fall down, and that releases all the oils, and that's the best version of Mexican oregano. The stuff you find in a lot of the big grocery stores, even though it may say Mexican oregano, is often cut and sifted, so it's a clean product, but it also doesn't have nearly as much flavor. Okay, so now I'm going to make a kind of coarse puree out of this. Okay, when the meatballs are beautifully browned all over, I will show you what they look like, and we will put the sauce on them. These are beautiful, and they are smelling so beautiful. I'm going to turn the temperature way down to like a medium low here, and this is the moment then that we will put this mixture over the top of them. There will be a little bit of a spatter when it goes over, but we want to make sure that we've covered all of the meatballs like that. I'm actually going to take a little bit of it and spoon up over some that didn't get covered completely, because it's that flavor that we want to get into the meatballs, and we want the meatball flavor to get into the sauce. Okay, so now we're going to set a timer for about 10 minutes. I don't have a top for this 12-inch skillet, so I'm just sliding a rimmed baking sheet on top of it. That works really well to cover it. But this again is over this medium-low temperature. And it will take about 10 minutes to cook those meatballs through. So I'll show you what that looks like and then we'll finish the sauce. Okay, let's see what these look like. Beautiful. I'm going to take all of the meatballs out onto a platter here, leaving as much of the sauce behind as possible because we actually have to finish the sauce now. We have to finish it with a little bit of liquid, and then we have to season it with salt. Okay, I'm gonna take this one last one and put it over here so that I can get a little taste of that. Okay, next thing is we're gonna add some liquid to this pan because the sauce is now too reduced for us to work with. We just need to bring that up to a nice simmer here. Now, I'm using some stock here, but I will also tell you, you could just use water for this because it's infused with all of this wonderful flavor from the pork that we made the meatballs out of. If you have a little bit of wine around, a third of a cup of wine or some beer, all of those things will work really nicely. Now, a quick taste first to see if there is, how much salt there is in this, because some will have leached out of the meatballs. But it still needs a little bit more to bring the flavors into perfect balance. Oh, very nice. Okay, now, once we get that salt mixed in there, I'm going to pour the sauce evenly over the meatball mixture here. Beautiful. And then turn that off. I think a nice little garnish, since I have this parsley here. I mean, it's beautiful just the way that it is, but since I have this parsley here, I'll take a couple of sprigs of that and then just put my knife through that and roughly chop it to go over the top of it here. Okay. And then sprinkle that over the top. And you have a very simple and very what I would call soul-satisfying dish. Now, I forgot to put any sauce on mine, so I'm going to steal some from the side over here and then go into this guy. So they're very tender. That's what I'm looking for, is that tenderness in the meatballs. And then I love the smoky sort of tanginess of that tomato sauce. I'm a happy guy.